Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Coming up on Off 90, Frank Lloyd Wright is world famous for his innovative buildings. We tour 2 homes he designed right here in southern Minnesota. Rushford artist Laura Hayden marries rural and urban with her handmade jewelry crafted inside a crop seed warehouse. Alden artist Paul Reefer gives us an in-depth look at creating lifelike sculptures. And we take you on a tour of St. Augustine's Church in Austin, more than a century old. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. First up on today's program, Frank Lloyd Wright's remarkable buildings can be seen all over the country. But did you know there are several examples of his work right here in southern Minnesota? We take you on a tour of 2 homes designed by Wright in his trademark style.
It is a mixture, I think, of a cabin and a house. It is less formal, yeah, and we are not formal in our living, you know. I like his design, which really, you know, reflects some of the ideas which we knew from Germany and from, you know, art classes in school and things like that. I had joined the staff here in '68 and met my wife, who was a trainee in the clinic here. And in 1971 we married and looked for a house. So we looked at the house and we saw it really, you know, untouched since 1952. They were the same thing, the same carpets, the same seats, things. It was, you know, really religiously preserved like a museum. The Usonian house, he called it, or the organic house, which he described, you know, as simple, as reflecting the inhabitants of it in their habits and so on, not overwhelming them, you know, with great ceilings and wood panelings and other things, of simple materials, you know, stone. I believe the cement stone he used here was about, you know, the most organic material he could find. Usually they had special cement stones, which they made special and had them supported with wires and or brick. But here, you know, we have simple cement stones, and there is the outside wall is practically the inside wall as well, and you see the materials quite openly. You know, you see the cement stone all over. It is not disguised with any marble or whatever. And then long lines. He thought that, you know, the horizontal line is the natural line, whatever he meant by that. The lines are, you know, clear cut. You have a clear feeling of lines, and it looks pleasing to me and to my wife too. Was ist Wahrheit? Woher weiß ich, wer ich bin? Warum soll ich gut sein? We don't throw away books, you know, we throw away many other things, but actually we never throw away books, and so they accumulate. And where you look around, in every room we have books, you know, and it is occasionally you look at them again and you think of what you did when you read it and what it was, and so on, you know, so it is nice to have them. Yeah, I understand that President Truman said that Frank Lloyd Wright builds chicken cubes. Oops, come. We never thought of selling the house, and even now, you know, we are not planning to sell the house as long as we live. I must say that if you live in it 40 years, you know, you get accustomed to it and whatever.
You know, when we bought the house, there was not much written about Frank Lloyd Wright. But in the last, 30 years, there have been a lot of books and a TV show, and so people are probably a little more aware of him now. I started looking at houses in town, and I wanted a contemporary, and the word got around to the different realty people. And one Sunday morning, a realtor that I had never met called me, and she said, I've got a house that is a contemporary. She said, it's going on the market very soon. She came over to my other house and picked me up and brought me here, and that's it. I hadn't seen anything like this in town. I just thought I might as well buy it. I've been looking long enough and haven't found anything that I felt that way about.
The thing I liked most about it is that, the outdoors is right there for us. And, sitting, no matter where you sit in the home, you have the sunshine coming in on the few days that we do have sunshine. The scenery, even now in the wintertime, is magnificent outside. We don't have a distant view, but the short view is good. The woods are nice. We have wildlife in the yard frequently. It's just nice in that way.
This is the living room. When we originally moved in here, the furniture all sat this way, looking at the windows, and the TV was right there in front of the draperies. But that's when TVs were all very little, and when we wanted a big one, then we moved the room around like this. The architects that stop by always comment on this type of railing here. All the bedrooms up here overlook the living room, but it can be closed off when people are here. And this is the bathroom upstairs. I have not changed any of the fixtures here. This is the original tile. This is a family room in the basement, and it's quite unusual that a Frank Lloyd Wright house would even have a basement. But he made it very convenient to have light with 2 windows coming from the outside down here, and then the indirect lighting going all the way around. My husband last summer in a golf tournament won a countertop. The first prize was new countertops. And I said, no, give it to somebody else.
We have 2 children, and they both said that make sure that we don't sell it without them knowing. They would even perhaps want
Move
to
here.
move into the home if and when we'd be ready for that.
You usually find seed inside a crop seed warehouse, but inside one such building in Rushford, you'll find intricate, handcrafted jewelry. Artist Laura Hayden makes everything by hand, using metal tools, fire, and even a tree stump. Her jewelry reflects the rural Minnesotan landscape, urban architecture, and the fence lines between them.
For me, I love metal. It's not as hard as you might think. You can move metal really easily when you know how to do it. I love making jewelry because it's wearable art. My name is Laura Hayden, and I am a jewelry designer and owner of Fence Jewelry. My studio is in a seed corn warehouse in Rushford, Minnesota. On any given day, we have a lot of corn and soybean growers in and out of here. It's weird, but it's not so different than the eclectic mix of my jewelry. This is a corn kernel and soybean ring. I wouldn't say weird, I would say it's unique and novel. Definitely novel. So I'm going to saw this shape out of this piece of silver. I grew up in Rushford, Minnesota. Grew up on a farm. After college, I had been working in agricultural business and then went to grad school and worked in a couple of different corporate marketing management roles until about 1.5 years ago when I decided to take the entrepreneurial leap and went to jewelry school. And after that, set up my studio and started my business, and now I'm designing. So now I am going to set a white diamond into a sterling silver pendant. I have always needed a creative outlet, even when I was doing everything in the corporate marketing world. I knew that I needed to make this change because I was not content working in an office and couldn't see myself doing that for the next 30 years or so. I won't lie. It's tricky. So no time like the present, and I took the jump. So now that's what it looks like. Reefer Academy in San Francisco had a wonderful reputation, and they have a lot of different programming options. Everything from hand fabricating, filing, soldering, finishing, basics in terms of setting stones, everything from start to finish. And it was during that period of time I was like, oh, I'm so in love with this. I think when I was working in the marketing capacity that I realized that, you know, I think in pictures all the time. I will have a vision for what, for example, our logo should look like. You know, think about the average business logo. There's absolutely a strategy to the psychology behind that in how it's composed. And that is really not so different than when I design a piece of jewelry for a client. Jewelry is really meaningful to people. Jewelry fills a void. It's a wearable form of art. And so when I get to make that happen, and I get to be creative at the same time in the designing process, it's so fulfilling. I mean, totally different than what I was doing before. I have new inspiration every day, and I often find it in very simple things. In southeastern Minnesota, the hills are so amazing and the landscapes are so amazing. Every time I walk outside, I'm inspired. But also in urban areas, same thing. I walk outside and there's inspiration everywhere. I can take something that I've seen that's interesting, or I've captured it in a photo, and I can transfer that into a piece of metal. I go for walks with my camera and take pictures of everything. Fence lines, fence posts. So that is where the name fence jewelry came from. And I have a foot pedal underneath here, which enables me to regulate the speed. If you recognize that sound, you've probably heard it at the dentist. There's some cool things I do with my design process to take a concept and actually put it on paper in a sketch form. And then there's a whole nother step in, okay, what are the right materials? What's the right metal? What's the right stone? What's the right finish? And how do I get from here to there? There you can see it, it's really starting to shine. So it's matching all of that together to get the desired end result. Actually making jewelry by hand absolutely is a lost art. You will not find many hand forging tree stumps around. That's really, really unique to the trade. This is a vise, and this is a bracelet mandrel. And then this is a hammer that I use mostly when I do hand forging pieces like this. With the wrong move of your hand or the tool, one piece can be wrecked in just a second. Occasionally things will go wrong and you'll have to start over. That's definitely, so there's a lot of patience that comes into play, but also a high level of attention to detail and perfection is important too. Our world today, in the commercial jewelry industry, most all of it is manufactured, and most of that is manufactured overseas. It's great when people patronize local artists and local business owners, and it's giving back to the community and runs full circle, and I strongly believe that. I love to be able to design different styles of jewelry that make people feel good. And enhance their style and who they are, which is often also a reflection of who they are inside. I love it when they gasp for air. When they're like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. It's so rewarding. Right there, that's where the reward is. That's why I started Fence Jewelry, was to put all that together, to have an outlet for my inspiration, but also to help people take their style to the next level, and recognizing that everyone is drawn to different things. Whether it be classic, clean, traditional, or bold, embellished designs that they can wear and have a wearable piece of art that speaks to who they are and their place in the world.
How do you capture the essence of a person in clay? Alden artist Paul Reefer has a spectacular gift that allows him to craft stunningly lifelike sculptures. You may have seen some of his work in our area, like his sculpture commemorating World War II in Soldiers Field in Rochester. Enjoy this piece from the first season of Off 90.
I graduated from Mankato State University in industrial and technical studies. I was visiting some friends on campus at Brigham Young University in Utah, and I stumbled across a sculpture lab, and it was instant attraction, and that was my start. Just enjoy watching people, and there's so many different characters. You could spend a lifetime just doing people. This one is entitled Milady. I saw a young lady with Grecian facial features, and I asked her to pose for it, so it developed from just noticing a character. There's an inner soul that everybody has, a nobility that I try to capture. There's a fourth dimension, the soul of a person, the character of a person. That's what intrigues me, I guess, is to try to bring out that character in a piece. And it develops over time. And if I've captured the essence of that subject, other people can relate to that and see that and feel that. And I think that's part of the joy too, is it's almost like a cooperative joy or a shared experience that I had as an artist in creating a piece, and then a person who comes into a gallery and looks at this piece and they connect.
Finally this week, we're taking you inside an Austin landmark. The St. Augustine Church was built more than a century ago, completed in 1896. In 1976, the building endured a lightning strike and ensuing fire that nearly consumed it. Thankfully, it was restored and survives today for everyone to enjoy. See you next week, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.